Last week, the House of Representatives inaugurated an investigative committee to look into the alleged loss of over $2.4 billion revenue accrued from illegal sale of 48 million barrels of crude oil export in 2015, as well as crude oil export from 2014 till date. Though the Green Chambers is talking tough on getting to the root of the matter, as some whistleblowers are willing to unmask top government officials behind the deal. Nigerians have expressed little faith that the exercise will produce any tangible result.
Pertinent. First of all, there's a salient issue of a whistleblower in 2020 who raised allegations that certain individuals at the time in government and some allegedly still serving conspired to sell 48 million barrels of Nigeria's crude, which resulted in the country's loss of over $2.4 billion. So it is important to point out the fact that our job, in line with our constitutional mandate in Section 88 and 89, is to investigate. And with regards to the occurrence of this issue, it only came to the fore, like several other issues, several years later. Even though the matter occurred in 2015, it was only brought to the fore by a whistleblower towards the end of 2020. And remember, that was the COVID period. And in the time between when that allegation came up and now, there has also been the issue of trying to identify the whistleblowers, trying to determine whether or not there was even a reason to commence this investigation.
Well, Honorable Gbila, of course, who you've just seen there, joins us now in the studio to take a look at this disturbing issue of crude oil theft in the country and if the House of Representatives can really help solve this problem. Honorable Gbila, thank you so much for being here and Happy New Year to you.
Yes, Happy New Year, Amaka. Happy New Year, Christian.
You're welcome.
$2.4 billion, that's a huge sum. Talk to us about what we know at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much. That's obviously an amount of money that Nigeria requires at the moment, considering the amount of borrowing we're embarking upon even to pay salaries. So now, what we have established so far is that a whistleblower in 2020 alleged that the sum of 48 million barrels, an amount of 48 million barrels, which at the exchange rate and at the cost of crude oil at the time would have amounted to over $2.4 billion, was identified as having been sold by, like I also like to point out, allegedly certain individuals at the time at the helm of affairs in government, and some who they claim are still at the helm of affairs in certain quarters in the government at the moment, that within them, those amounts of barrels of crude that were identified were sold off in China and the monies were not remitted to the government. Wow. Now that is the allegation, and note that our job as this committee is to look at this particular issue and also other whistleblower revelations. The President Muhammadu Buhari himself in recent times has announced that they made recoveries of hundreds of millions of dollars from whistleblower revelations. So we, as the representatives of the people, want to find out how much was really discovered, how were those monies expended. This is another mandate of the committee in line with other crude oil exports under the period under review.
Well, the periods under review, first and the time these allegations were made, that 48 million barrels, that would be an equivalent of 2 million barrels per month. Whereas we will produce 2 million at that time, 2014-15. Nigeria was doing about 2 million barrels per day. Now, the crude between 2014 and 2015 amounted to 48 million barrels, you're saying. And during the time of COVID, was in 2020, was when these same products were sold to China. As your investigation unraveled that, how can you reconcile production of 2014-15 to 2020 being sold?
Okay, so let me correct that, Christian. The information about what transpired is what came to the fore in 2020. The transaction itself occurred in 2015. So it is very logical that our production was at that level at the time, not exactly 2 million and above, but ranging between 1.8 thereabout, 1.9 thereabouts per day, yes. So obviously it is very logical that we could have sent that amount of crude for sale outside the shores of the country, which is what we normally do. And so the whistleblower is actually alleging that, so in the period, it was a transition period. So the president, in his own wisdom, actually set up a presidential committee to look into the issue of crude oil exports at the time, because they were trying to track, as a new administration, all the crude that had been moved out of the country for sale. And this whistleblower had identified, because he was approached by those in China who wanted to buy this crude, that this is crude from Nigeria. So they reached out to the government. We have identified this crude. He claims there was an agreement for him to be paid a certain percentage as a finder's fee for bringing this to the knowledge of the Nigerian government. So when he did that, unfortunately, he said when that crude was eventually sold, they sidelined him, and he's aware that the money now wasn't paid into the coffers of the Nigerian government.
Wow. I know that the investigation is still ongoing. Your committee, you still have your work cut out for you.
Yes.
But quite interesting revelations you've just reeled out there. And the fact that we do know that Nigeria, as it stands right now, oil theft is a major issue. Between January and August of last year, according to the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, $2 billion is what Nigeria actually lost just within an 8-month period. But the question is, this committee is coming now. You have how many months to go before the night assembly is over? So what exactly are your main focus, and what are you looking to achieve with this committee before you leave office?
Well, there's this age-old adage that says it's better late than never. As a responsible house of the Nigerian people, this is the time when we were able to identify, properly those individuals who were involved in these circumstances. The whistleblowers and some of their associates have been able to reach out to us in confidence. Because of the sensitivity of the issue, of course, a lot of what we have to do will be done in confidence before we bring it to the knowledge of the generality of the public. So, but that is why it took time for us to get to this point, and we will have to, in our spirit of patriotism, visit the related individuals even outside the country. Some of them are in the United States, some of the concerned parties are in China, but the timing, as you mentioned, is not too short. This is also a sacrifice we are willing to make. The committee is constituted of very accomplished individuals who have been in government, who have been champions of industry, who are now members of the House. The leadership has espoused confidence in us to be able to carry out this responsibility, and they're showing the willingness to get to the bottom of this issue. So regardless of the time, even though some of us are running for election, we're giving it our best, we're giving it the time that is required, because we believe it is something that is very important to the Nigerian people.
Where do you find the time between this and your other committees are you a member of, and the fact that this time around you're running for Senate?
Well, yeah, so that is, like I said, it's part of the sacrifice we have to make. So whenever I have the time, I dash back to the constituency, go around, visit the wards, do the campaigns, and rush
you're
back.
running against the man that is on ground there, Samuel Otom, the present governor of your state.
Yes, I am. I'm running against the governor, but I believe that I have better to offer the people of the zone with regards to providing proper representation to them as a senator.
We'll find another platform for both you and your governor to come and discuss that. And
I would welcome a debate at any point, at any time.
People of your
well, before we let you go, Honorable Gbila, the last time you were here, there was that controversy about your party, or what political party you're actually running for Senate, or has that been resolved? So
thank
tell
you
us
very
what
much, Amaka.
platform.
I thank you
clear
for that.
Air.
Yes, the court has ruled that INEC should expunge my name as a candidate for the NNPP and maintain my name as a candidate for Labour Party.
Right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Okay. At least your presidential candidate has gotten one endorsement,
Yes, from a
which is
major
already,
player.
generating a lot of ripples. Let's see if your
a lot more
people in Benue State will give you the endorsement too.
No, definitely.
Thanks so very much, Honorable
Thank you very
Gbila, for
much.
coming, and we wish your committee all the best and hope that recoveries will be made in the short period that you have of the 9th Senate left.
Thank you very much.